Good morning and welcome to Judging by the Cover, the gaming review show where I rate games that I have not played and score them based on the store pages. Today, we are continuing on with Space Month with something that, quite frankly, comes off a bit more lighthearted compared to what we were looking at last week, and quite frankly, the things we could be looking at with these space themes overall. We're diving into Satisfactory by Coffee Stain Studios, released in September of 2024. Now that feels like a little bit of a that's almost 2 full years ago. We are getting close to the end of May here, so we're getting some stuff here. Now, Coffee Stain does have quite a pedigree to their name. Like I clicked on the Coffee Stain link, and it looks like we do actually have a Oh wow! I actually have a few of the games that they've made. Sanctum, Sanctum 2, and Goat Simulator are all part of that. And all of a sudden, what I've seen from Satisfactory so far is starting to make a little more sense. Along with a story about my uncle, Deep Rock Galactic, so more co-op space themed or oh no, that's dwarven mining it looks like, but with some like mechanical and gun tech going on. Hunt down Valheim? Wait, did I review Valheim? Hello. Where's my I have a log of all the videos I have done. I know okay, I have not reviewed Valheim, but the title was familiar because I think somebody had once gave me a shout out and saying, "Hey, maybe you should check out Valheim." That might be one I have to look at in the future if it's from the same creator. Also, newer editions of Goat Simulator, of course, the Satisfactory, As We Descend, Fellowship, Hunt Down Overtime, and Deep Rock Galactic Rogue Core. So yeah, the developers for Satisfactory have quite a bit of a pedigree to them. I'm wondering how much they've shared the engine between these because they do seem to have a lot of these releases kind of overlapping a little bit. I'm wondering how big this studio actually is. But from what I've seen, their work does look extremely promising. Now, I know some of those games, like Goat Simulator, are basically jokes of a game that's mostly just a physics engine for players to goof around in. If I recall, the Goat Simulator store page way back when I had originally seen it even said, "Look, this game is a gag. It's probably not worth your money, but if you buy it, have fun," which I fully support having that kind of tongue in cheek sincerity to it. But anyway, that's enough about that. We are looking at Satisfactory. Now, I have not seen any actual like gameplay or streams or videos about Satisfactory. I've only heard of it. And then I realized, wait a minute, what oh gosh, what was it? So something along the lines of what other games were like it because there was something else that I had thought I reviewed, but I did not actually review. But I have given it a brief look before. It might be something worth looking into in the future. Is Factorio? In fact, did I wishlist that one? I maybe I had it wishlisted because I intended to look at it. I never did. But that was the kind of the first vibe. Except Factorio feels more not dark. Like it doesn't feel darker, but it does feel like that one is made to be kind of an engine of balancing progress with having the world and the environment go against you. While Satisfactory does appear to have some combat to it, it feels much more lighthearted and laid back, and especially has a strength with what appears to be a multiplayer format that, quite frankly, does look incredibly fun and rewarding, much in the way of like Minecraft or Terraria, but with more of that automation and technological spin to it. Now, as far as the game goes, we're going to go ahead and dive into the description first, but they do have one, two, three, four, five, six, total of 7 trailers. We'll discuss the trailers in a little bit. A whole bunch of screenshots that show mostly the environment and the machines and the stuff you can build and all of that. But like I said, first, let's go ahead and dive into the store's information page. About this game, Satisfactory is a first person, open world factory building game with a dash of exploration and combat. Play alone or with friends. Explore an alien planet, control or create multi story factories, and enter conveyor belt heaven. Something I do like that we'll see later on. One of the trailers does even tell you like you can just have complete webs of nonsensical conveyor belts for either optimized construction and processing or for absolute chaos depending on how you're feeling and how you're vibing as a player. Construct, conquer nature by building massive factories across the land. Expand wherever and however you want. The planet is filled with valuable natural resources just waiting to be utilized. As an employee of Fixit, at, just saying that out loud finally after I'm done reading everything is like, oh, fix it. I get it now. It's your duty to make sure they come to good use. Automate, construct your factories with gracious perfection, or build intricate webs of conveyor belts to supply all your needs. Automate trucks and trains to reach your faraway outposts, and be sure to handle liquids properly by transporting them in pipes. It's all about minimizing manual labor. Explore and exploit, venture on expeditions to search for new materials, and be sure to put everything to good use. Nature is yours to harvest. You have vehicles, jetpacks, jump pads, and more at your disposal to make the exploration easier. Equip proper safety gear as well, just in case you run into the local wildlife. Like I said earlier, there is a little bit of combat to this, and it does even look like not overbearing against you, but more of like there are animals in the natural environment, so you have to be aware of dealing with those. Features: open world, explore the huge 30-kilometer squared alien planet that is Massage 2 ABB with its unique fauna and creatures. Okay, that's a weird sentence. That is massage to ABB. Yeah, I don't know what that actually means. The 30 kilometers squared, I understand. That's 30 kilometers in a squared environment. Co-op, build a factory yourself or share the joy with your friends. Up to you. Factory building, you experience building a huge factory from first person perspective. Automate and optimize to perfection for your personal satisfaction. Now, this is one of the things that really sticks out to me. I did showcase earlier other games that this developer had made, including an older one, the Sanctum Tower Defense games, which did a similar kind of thing where, I'm sure most people watching are probably familiar with tower defense games and how they function, normally with a top down perspective where you're clicking and dragging certain kinds of weapon towers to defeat waves of enemies coming through. But Sanctum did something a little different where you are an actual character playing in first person perspective in the tower defense setting. You still set up towers and you still fight off waves of monsters that are trying to get through your towers and through your whole array setup. But you're playing in that first person perspective, and you even have your own weapons and skills to go ahead and help your towers fight off those monsters. It was kind of a cool twist. I played a little bit of that years and years ago. It's something that I'm actually kind of interested to revisit just as a little fun thing to do. But it seems that they're taking that kind of thing here. I know I made the comparison to Factorio before, where it's kind of that same thing. You're harvesting the planet's resources and automating and building up your factory to take advantage of those resources and expand. But in this one, you're doing so in that first person perspective so that you have your feet on the ground working everything firsthand as opposed to being like a Sim City type of top down builder. You customize your factory to your own liking. Build at high altitudes or over wide plains. There's almost no limits in the making of your tailor made factory. And vehicles. Travel the world with class. Use jump pads, factory carts, jetpacks, hypertubes, trucks or trains. The choice is yours. So, a whole lot to go on there that gives you a lot of freedom in how you develop the world. And from what I'm seeing, like I haven't gone into all of the recent events and announcements, but they do have that section here. And the most recent one came in March of this year. So, they are still actively updating and patching and adding things for the game. In fact, most of these trailers are update trailers with new content, new machines, new things going about them. So it's kind of cool that they have that. And I'm not seeing in the store section anything to do with the only DLC we have here is the soundtrack, which we're also going to talk about once we get to those trailers. But like I'm saying, it seems that all of that is basically just you get all those updates with the game, like the Minecraft and Terraria when I make those comparisons instead of buying DLC. Which honestly, for the kind of price point they got here, it does seem like a little bit more expensive than what I would see on what I would have thought of as an indie game at first glance at $40. But overall, it does seem that they offer quite a bit, especially when I remember that things like I think Terraria is around that maybe $20 range if I recall, maybe 15. Stardew's at 15 and you still get a lot of gameplay, but then Minecraft, I believe, was $30 at its core retail for most of its lifespan. I'm not sure where it's at right now, but that's what I remember paying for it across multiple iterations of it, be it the PC license or on the Switch. But yeah, we're looking satisfactory here. Now, we are going to go ahead and dive into our breakdown of the trailers. Now, our first trailer is incredibly enough. The first trailer they have marked here as it seems to be the original release trailer, not early access. That one's later on down the line of the trailers, but they do highlight the gameplay, the humor, the music, a lot of the things going on with the game, showing the building, the harvesting of resources, the drill mining and all of that. The cute little animals going on. Like they have what seems to be both aggressive animals and cute animals going on here. And then at the end of this trailer, they capped it off with showing the title and early access, but then the player character pressed a button on their little techno remote and it wiped out the early access thing, which has me believing that, hey, this seems to have been what was the initial release trailer for the game, despite the game having been out in early access. I actually like that they put this trailer first. The trailer does show quite a bit of what the game has to offer with its machines, its builds, its vehicles. You kind of get a glimpse of what you're in for along with the tone and having that sense of absolute creativity with a little touch of hint at that multiplayer aspect. The second trailer we have here is one of the update trailers, and this is where the trailers start to go a little out of order. This one was labeled as Update 6, which seems to show a little bit of nighttime situation. And if I recall correctly, this one, yeah, they have a lot, like this whole sequence of characters talking back and forth, and then some aggressive combat situations. So it seems that Update 6 was likely mostly about weapons and monsters, and they showcase quite a bit of interesting combat interactions going on here, along with your little jump pad and launching off into the air. Holy crap, how many machines are they putting on that poor little thing? And they cap it off with a little Scooby Doo run sequence. Anybody that's familiar with that, it's just more of. They're showing a little bit of the serious aspect of the game with some of the threats that you're going to face off, but they cap it off with the humor and just being able to chill with your bros, your sisters, whatever you call them, all of your buddies. The next trailer coming up is the Update 5 trailer. So again, these seems to be running backwards. You got your little cute critter here showing off the stuff, and this trailer seems to mostly be about the new build gun. This is all about efficiency and possibly improving the build mechanics of the game. So a nice little update for players to be able to build things more efficiently, more effectively. They kind of hint at when the gun would become available. I don't know if it's from the starter, if you have to build something to get to that point. They do have a little snippet of a highlight in the trailer that talks about that, which is quite welcome that they're going to do that. For anybody that had the game, that has bought the game before now, is going to be getting more information out of that than I am, being first time looking into this game. But again, they do show more of the builds, and I do appreciate this about the trailers. The builds they show are different in each trailer. Not to say that necessarily every single build is new to the update, but that they specifically decided to show things that they didn't show before, whether that is actually new content or not. I would imagine a lot of these things were possible. They did highlight that the railways and stuff were a part of the base game. So seeing those in here in this interesting new way, capped off again with the game taking its humorous approach with the little friendly critter, the lizard dog thing, grabbing that remote from the character. Our next trailer coming up at trailer number 4, I believe this one was another update trailer. Yes, this was the update 4 trailer that shows, again, more building, more processing, and more of the automation going on here. We're just going to be kind of skipping ahead a little bit. They showcase the jetpacks going on here, some incredibly fast stacked builds. So I'm guessing a lot of these might be prefabricated things, machines with certain purposes that once you get the materials, they get their machines out and just kind of rapid build them, which frankly, I feel like that does make the game more accessible so that you can, as soon as you get the resources, you can go ahead and do what you want with it. Now, our next trailer, this one I feel like would have been better off as that second trailer. It starts off with presumably the developer voicing over this part of the game, and it seems to be what would have been the early access portion of the game, or early access portion of their promotion, where they showcase the mining, a little bit of the building. Again, seeing things that are laid out in a way that is different from the other trailers so that the other trailers are actually expanding on this. And the voiceover I find to be genuinely humorous about this too, where the way he's talking about it, if you go and watch the trailer yourself, he's even saying you can build these or that or whatever this is, stuff like that. They keep injecting that tone of humor, telling us that this is not supposed to be like a bleak storyline like we've seen with Pragmata, or even what was it, last week's whole situation with last week's look at Aphis, which had like a little bit of a nice, like a nice look to it, but I could tell that Aphis absolutely wanted to tell a little bit of a darker story. This one, I can see very much having the similar mechanical structure to it, but this one is made more for the silly vibes to it. They even show us in the next trailer more of that silliness with the character building up these conveyor belts, and then all of a sudden they can't build the next part, and they look like they're just absolutely done with the day. And I'm pretty sure everybody who's worked a job, especially in certain settings, probably relates to this. But then they go and throw this little dark twist in here. And again, this is another update trailer, update 3. So again, they're counting backwards in the updates for these, which honestly, as far as the organization, I feel like they could have reversed it, especially since they did keep that launch trailer front and center on the Steam page. They even show a lot of tone and atmosphere to this one, which I feel like this is a little bit of a departure from the other trailers, but it's still not done in a way that's bleak or apocalyptic. It's kind of awe inspiring the way they go about this trailer with this jump into the light. Just absolutely, it seems to show less of the mechanics to it, but maybe this trailer is one that really fine tuned. I'm guessing the pipes, based on what we see with the trailer here. Again, this is just me guessing on the trailers. I'm sure if I were to actually scour all of the updates and spend, 3, 4, or 5 hours doing in depth research, I would probably have a better clue of what's going on there. But honestly, if I'm looking at the store page, I'm trying to decide as a consumer, is this something I want to buy on this? And do I really want to research my game for 4 or 5 hours before deciding that? It's like, no, I'd like to see what the videos have to show. I also, anybody who's watched this channel for a while knows that I do not put a lot of effort into my videos. I'm mostly here for the vibes. So sorry, not sorry. Ugh, they even showcase like this whole thing, the little spigot on the back of the head. I feel like it's a little throw on, a little throw at Valve right there, being like, yeah, we're on Steam, get us on Steam kind of thing. I do find it just consistently hilarious how they keep throwing these little meta jokes into their promotion. Now, finally, our last trailer, another 2 minute trailer, and that's something else I do like about this. Each of the trailers is short, like 1 to 2 minutes long, not taking too long to get the point across, not overstaying their welcome. And this trailer is showcasing the conveyor belts. So much conveyor belt and automation, the vehicles going around. This does seem like another one of those core base release kind of situations. They have a showcase of the scanner pinging resources, a whole lot of things to see there. And again, I would highly recommend people out there, whether or not this seems like a game that you're interested in buying, take a look at these trailers because I do find that the trailers do a good job of showcasing the game, but they're also just nice to look at. I feel like they're well edited, well put together. They show each one shows something different. And if you were to put them in order of the early access, the release, and then the update trailers in order, it would show a really cool progression of that. And if they could change the order of those on the Steam store page, I feel like it might get that point across a little bit better. But still, the fact that they led with that launch trailer is still a huge benefit here. Next up, we have the screenshots to take a quick peek at. We do have a screenshot showing a conveyor belt with a whole ton of drums and then a great big spire that looks like it's right out of something like Mitchell's and versus the Machines. If anybody's familiar with that movie, I feel like the whole like final mega building that everything happened in, this does seem kind of reminiscent of that. So, you can build all kinds of buildings, whether they're actual functional factories or you're building it just for the looks, vibe how you like in the game. Next up, we have some of the train track with some rail switching stations, a little rail switchway here, and quite frankly, what looks like a pretty cool train station that they have going on there. We have more conveyor belts showing what looks like a drill mining system here. Again, more automation, less manual labor. That's something else I do appreciate. So many of the trailers, like they do show the player characters actively mining and producing things themselves, but a lot of the shots also just show them standing off to the side of their factory, taking a coffee break. And quite frankly, I could go for a coffee. Again, more factory shots. We see the vehicle, what looks like the warthog from Red vs. Blue almost. More factories. Looks like the conveyor belt that's possibly in the middle of being built, the way it's highlighted here. We see a little snippet of the menu here, which looks like a Windows 95 or Windows ME kind of window interface with the way the tabs and the bar is here. Um, Honestly, I think this might be one of the only looks at the in-game menus for when it comes across crafting, organizing, building, all that kind of stuff. But seeing it laid out like this in what looks like a familiar computer screen, it does if the rest of the menus are like this, I could see it at least being very easy to navigate and intuitive for the player, especially players coming from playing on Windows devices. So power to you right there. And this one, to go into detail, this one even looks like it's more about setting patterns onto the thing so that you can kind of paint on the surfaces, maybe just kind of shows a little bit of creativity in there with road signs, basically. We see more of the exploration in the environment. We see some of the wildlife here against what looks like an office building. I don't know if it's actually an office building, but doesn't that look like an office building? I could just see like a bunch of desks lined up in the windows there with the CEOs just standing off right here in the upper windows. More factory again, more factory. I know I said more factory a few times already, but this game is about factories. Ultimately, I can't be too upset about that. All of the screenshots, though, they do show yellow. I am wondering if they do give you a little more control over the color schemes of your factories later on. I would like to know about that. We do see some totaled vehicles. I'm wondering if the wildlife has taken this out, if this was something that was, or if something crashed and got damaged. I'd like to know the story about that. We did see a train crash in one of the trailers, so we know that there is, and we know that there's hostile entities in the worlds too. So either could be a viable situation here. More of the jetpacks with some building. Looks like they might have be missing some materials for building this bracket. More looks like tubing to pipe off some of the water here. More smelting, so we got the bars coming out of here from raw minerals. Again, it's just so much, and a lot of this is a whole lot of vehicles too. And if the vehicles are also automated on these roads, I would like to. This it looks like it would be incredibly satisfying. Like once you get it set up to just watch it play out. Assuming your computer's beefy enough to handle this, I can't imagine. Like I have seen Minecraft, Terraria, and Stardew with like automation mods and stuff, or redstone mechanisms where they slow down and like borderline come to crashing the game if your machine isn't powerful enough to keep up with it. I could see that possibly becoming an issue here just by the sheer quantity and the sheer scale of what I'm seeing. So it does see that, and now I'm not saying that it is or isn't. It's just I feel like I might have a slight concern about that for the game. I should probably go ahead and just scroll down later to look at those system specs because they do put the system specs on the store pages, and I know I I never comment on them because I know how to use computers, but I'm not super tech savvy where all of the numbers and brands and everything thrown into specs are going to really click in my brain for what they all mean necessarily. I'm not a super genius like that. I admit it. But again, more of the factories and everything playing out beautifully in how it is. So that is that is a huge number of screenshots that they give us to go off here. Now, finally, we have to get into breaking down the analysis of the game, starting from our graphics. The graphics, I think, are solid. They are definitely above what I see on like most Nintendo Switch games for what we see in the trailers. Uh, but graphically speaking, the characters and the environments, they do look good. They're not overly hyper detailed like you could see in some things, but they do also seem to be a bit above the likes of Haven and Road 96, which are much simpler games with like pre-constructed and pre-rendered environments. Like you're not going to get a whole lot of variance in there from one playthrough to another, since those areas are handcrafted and self-contained. Now, with this studio, I can imagine this studio having more financial backing, especially with their backlog of things over those. And I'm not trashing on those other games graphics because those games are still beautiful and captivating in the graphics in their own right. Like they don't need to be all hyper realistic. But this one does seem to have more detail to its plant life, its water, its mountains, its land masses and everything. And the machineries, yes, the machines and the buildings, they do appear very like flat and utilitarian, but again, being factory themed, that being the core of the game's concept, that makes sense that everything here is going to look more uniform as you build on it. That's kind of the point of this kind of construction. You want it to be efficient and useful. Although, as a player, you can also go a little silly with it, but you are still kind of confined to possibly a little bit of prefab, but in a way that still gives you a lot, like so much freedom. The sound. Now, the sound and the music, we actually get across the 7 different trailers an excellent look into the game's music and soundtrack. And having just listened to those, I could absolutely see myself getting the soundtrack, which I believe on Steam here is $8 for that. I have the soundtracks for Road 96 and for Haven, and I do like to listen to those at work in the background since like it's not like overly distracting music to keep me from my job, but it's just nice to have that little bit of background noise. And this is the exact kind of soundtrack that I would also listen to in that same kind of setting. I find that incredibly enjoyable, and even if you're not a fan of the music, I can still appreciate that they showcase that much of the music across all of the different trailers. And I really appreciate the effort and the work and the attention that went into that, that they didn't just recycle the same audio track in every single trailer. Now, the gameplay and the user interface here. Oh, we do have a little bit more menu here. So some of the automation and machines, they do have their own menus. Let's see if I can rewind this just very briefly while I had that going in there. Where did you go? I know we saw that one menu earlier, but then I just caught an eye full of this other one on the screen. If we can get that back. There it is. So what we have here, this one does look like a processing, like you're looking into the data of a machine. It shows all the items, all the relevant items, clock speed, target speed. So you can even overclock your machinery, which I guess that would possibly cause it to overheat, or if you don't have the enough water piping in to keep things cool. You know, you have all these different kinds of things to keep track of. And I'm sure as you expand, there's probably more opportunity for something to randomly go wrong in these kinds of situations. So managing everything and micromanaging those little details while trying to keep it automated seems like it could be a cool little system to go on. Now, that's just another part of the UI, seeing these menus. The menus are even a lot simpler than I would have thought. Like, I remember back when I reviewed Project Zomboid. Anybody else who remembers that review? I know some people had some mixed feelings about my take on that one. Um, those menus did seem to have a lot of information in them that for a new player could be hard to digest. These ones definitely look more easily laid out, where at a glance I can have a better idea of what's going on having never played the game. And again, that's just kind of the kind of the feeling that I'm getting from it there in that regard. The gameplay, if you enjoy redstone mechanisms in Minecraft, if you enjoy games like Factorio or the Automate mod in Stardew Valley, this is probably the exact kind of game that would just scratch that itch just right for you, especially in that futuristic planet colonizing and harvesting setting where yes, you could look at it in like a hyper capitalistic kind of way and like, oh, they're just tearing the planet apart for its resources. But sometimes when you're playing a game, you don't necessarily want to deal with the messages. You just want to kind of enjoy the sandbox of it like you do in Minecraft. So for those kinds of games, I could see those the gameplay being very different, but at least close enough in its themes to suit that style. Now, finally, let's get a look at the pricing. We're going to scroll down a little bit. Now, we did gloss over this earlier. We have right here $40 for Satisfactory at full price. Now, if you are the kind of person who has the time and the budget to go ahead and drop that on there, I feel like from what I have seen, Satisfactory does look to be fully worth that $40 price tag. Now, myself personally, I would probably wait for this to go on sale just because I don't know that I could spend the amount of time on it that I would like. But it is the kind of game that I would personally look into getting in that setting. Or if I have some, especially if I have some friends that already have the game or who are also getting the game, it is exactly the kind of thing to enjoy with friends, the way people do with like I said before, Minecraft, Terraria, for people who like the multiplayer aspects of those games, I could see that being incredibly rewarding here, especially if you have somebody to kind of help you along who's maybe a little more experienced, or if you have a group of people who have never played it. I could see everybody running their heads into walls trying to figure things out all at the same time could also be incredibly fun and entertaining. In fact, I could actually see myself sitting down and finding maybe some long form content creators that have done series on this game to go ahead and look into for myself, because I have played a bit of an extended I have played extended sessions of Minecraft and Terraria and Stardew and enjoyed all of those. And this is the kind of game that I would probably enjoy watching with some good personalities behind them. And I would enjoy playing it. Like I said, the $40 does seem completely worth it. Even after having been out for almost 2 full years, I don't see paid DLC anywhere. All I see here is bundles. There's a bundle with Star Rupture for a slight discount, Lightyear Frontier, which appears to be a space farming and building game. Another one, another 10% off for that collection. So if 40, yeah, if it's 40 and almost $60, yeah, the 10% gets you a little bit off there. And buy the Lose Your Whole Weekend bundle. Honestly, that's a hilarious name for a bundle right there. That's the kind of games that where you could go in and just lose all the time in the world with Deep Rock Galactic and Valheim. Again, more building and harvesting games. Just Oh, that's right. Valheim was one of those kinds of games, just with a more medieval spin to it. So that's kind of cool seeing these things side by side, where I can see where this developer kind of has their bread and butter and how they kind of had a natural progression from Sanctum, which I have played, to some of these other ones. Because, like, what is this? Valheim came out in 2021, and then we have Satisfactory, which has like that similar kind of build aesthetic, but more for the factory as opposed to medieval living. The only thing that even comes remotely close to the DLC is the soundtrack for $8. They don't even have like a separate art book or anything like that, but they do have a whole collection of updates to browse through if you want to get a bit of a deeper dive into their history and their timeline of when their major updates happen. Because remember, that was almost 2 years of game time that has existed on the regular market, and they have gone through 6 updates and are currently on a version 1.2. It's now on experimental. So that 1.2, it's probably like how they do their snapshots of Minecraft. I know I keep making that comparison, but it just seems to be an appropriate way to draw a parallel for something that's maybe a little older and familiar for a lot of people. So the pricing, the $40, I say is fair. It's more than I'm would setting aside out of my budget for this game, but for people that see this and would be like, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and spend 100, 200, 1,000 hours in this game, you're going to get your money's worth out of that from what I can see here, especially if you have some friends that you can play with on a regular basis. I could see that going incredibly well. But even if you don't have that network of friends to play with, or if you can't connect with some polite randoms over Discords or subreddits or something, it does look like it still offers a very robust and complete single player experience as well, just like the rest of those games that I've been making the comparison to all this time. So, all in all, I do think the game is doing extremely well in presenting its information. The store page description doesn't get over bloated, and their trailers, yes, it's 7 trailers, and I was initially a little worried, like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to sit through 7 trailers for this review. Now, the trailers, each one of them is genuinely unique and perfectly short in its own right. Like, they get the information out that they want in the trailer in an entertaining and artistic way each time. And even the couple of them where they take a bit more of a comedic narration approach, or an epic movie approach. They do have those couple of different vibes in there, while still all of them having an absolute sense of humor about themselves. And honestly, I think it's that tone that the developer and the promotion of the game has that really sells me on it, that has me tempted to, just pull out my credit card and buy it now at full price. But I have to control myself and not do that. Otherwise, I would absolutely lose myself on this. Now, with that said, I did double check on the Nintendo Switch. I did not see it on there. I searched up the Satisfactory. I didn't see it available. So I am a little disappointed that I don't have it on a platform that I can take handheld. But I'm sure that if this plays well and works well on Steam Deck, that you can also run that way. Although with a game like this, because of the first person view, I almost feel like I would prefer a mouse and keyboard with WASD movement controls over a controller, like doing the two joysticks for the thing. I feel like when it comes to the first person perspective, I personally get more precise movement out of using the mouse as far as aiming and just clicking where I want things to go. So even with that, I'm not sure that this is the kind of game that I would even want to play on handheld. So maybe not having it on Switch. Although, if it were on Switch 2, the Switch 2 does have the that whole mouse control functionality to it too. So maybe they could work something with that. Although I think the development would take a little bit of working to get that to work appropriately with that, since you would be working with the two Joy Cons, probably one for movement and then using the mouse for the facing. That could get very awkward depending on where the Switch player is sitting, and maybe they would still need a larger screen for that. So I think maybe on a desktop or laptop PC is probably the best way to experience this, just by the way that I'm looking at it here. So I need to give this game a score. I think now I have been giving games very positive scores. I try to see the best that I can in games. And most of the things I've been looking at lately have been genuinely incredible to look at. I have to say that Satisfactory is getting my extremely satisfied score of 9 out of 10. And this is, remember, again, for the store page. The reason I'm not giving this a perfect 10, I think, is going to be in large part due to the organization of the trailers. The way that the trailers count backwards from the most recent update kind of throws me off a little bit. I do appreciate the original launch trailer being the first trailer on Steam. I would think that maybe the pre-release trailer could be the first one, but the launch trailer is still a good secondary option for that first trailer slot. And I appreciate that they have at least one of those original trailers up front. I just kind of wish that the rest of it was shown in chronological order rather than having it reversed and then having the pre-release trailer splashed into the middle of them. I feel like those should have been organized maybe a little better. I Please, somebody out there who has developed games, who sets up your, if you guys set up your Steam store pages, I would like to hear from a developer at some point to know, like, how much control do you have over the organization of the order of your trailers? Like, is it just a most recently uploaded trailer goes to that first slot, or are you guys able to like click and move them around in that organization? I would like to genuinely know that from some of the developers who work on setting up these store pages for Steam. I don't know if any of them are ever going to see this video, but it is a point of curiosity I have, and maybe somebody else has some insight, because that it just seems like something that it feels like a small issue, but it does seem to be consistent enough that a lot of games kind of get that mixed up in their promotion materials, that it just kind of rubs the wrong way. Like, I don't know, am I alone in this where I would like to see that progression? But then again, like I said, this is a 9 out of 10 in my book. Like, that is my one complaint about this. The trailers showcase the gameplay, the music, and the tone of the game incredibly well. And while the screenshots are basically just kind of stills of the same kind of things that we're getting from the trailers, the screenshots still do showcase some freeze frames of some incredible work that you can do here as a player. And all of that going in there is quite frankly making for a very fun experience. Um, I see 3.4 gigahertz, 4 core processor, 8 gigabyte RAM for system requirements. This is okay, that's minimum, but recommended six. Okay, processor, Ryzen 5 equivalent performance, 6 physical cores, 16 gig RAM is or memory is recommended. Graphics, NVIDIA RTX recommended. Storage 20 gig space. So yeah, it is a little space intensive. They do want your processing to be up to snuff, but they even do have some minimums here. I'm sure they have some graphics options where you can maybe like tone down some of the textures and lighting to go ahead and make it save some memory on lower end machines to hopefully enjoy the game, especially with such huge automated things being the core of the game. So I would also like to know from people who have played this, who have experienced it on various types of machines, I'd like to know how valid are my concerns about the performance of that, considering how much of the game, like how much processing and manufacturing the game is intended to do. I am legit curious about that and how the computers handle that. Um, that's a, and that's not even a point of me being concerned about being a score against the game. Again, the nine out of 10 is just because of the organization of those of the video trailers. The other one is more of just a kind of thing of how much should I expect it to burn out a machine for that. And I know like people with gaming rigs, they have all kinds of different setups and loadouts. So that's again on them. I believe I did mention it earlier too. The kind of people I would recommend this game to, if you are the kind of person that likes to do redstone machinery in Minecraft, you like the automate mod in Stardew, you really like min maxing and you like that little bit of a technological automation stuff to it, then this is definitely the game up your alley. The $40 again looks like a pretty fair price, and if it goes on sale, like a substantial sale down from that, I could see myself picking it up and pocketing that to go ahead and mess with. And if I have any other friends that play it, come to think of it, do I have friends that play this? Uh, I have two friends who own the game and one that also wants the game. So if I were to wishlist this, that would be kind of a cool thing to experience with a couple of friends. Although whether or not people are actively playing, that's a whole other story. Anyway, that's our look at Satisfactory. Now, remember here, I know I haven't been doing the disclaimer every time. My views expressed here, they are my opinions. I know that I am not inherently correct about everything, especially considering that I am rating games that I have not played. Again, this is me rating the store page, and I do welcome all the comments, all the feedback, anybody telling me that this show is a dumb idea, that I'm full of shit. I welcome those comments too. If there's anything that, people can leave comments about misconceptions that I have on the game based on maybe me misinterpreting or misreading something or completely overlooking something from the store page, or if the store page doesn't show something about the game that really tilts that favorability one way or the other, let me know in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts are on the game, on the store page, how well they've promoted it. And if you've played the game, again, let me know your thoughts on the game, because again, this is exactly the kind of game that I could see myself sitting back and watching a series on, put it on in the background while I'm working on some other stuff. And honestly, that might be how I'm spending the rest of my night tonight, is finding a YouTube or a Twitch streamer that it is playing this, just to kind of see like, hey, what is going on with this? Um, it does seem to also be the kind of game where it's like, you shouldn't be too worried about spoilers, I don't think. It does seem more of the kind of game of let's just build and get creative and vibe with a good time. Not necessarily a huge like story-driven experience outside of the story that you and the players make. That's not and that is in no means a bad thing. I love story-driven games. I love games that are driven by characters, but sometimes you really just want to vibe.